Relationships are often built on deep emotional connections, shared experiences, and mutual understanding. However, sometimes these bonds start to fade, not because of a single dramatic event, but due to a slow, subtle drift. You may begin to notice small changes in her behavior, actions, or words that hint at her heart moving away from the relationship. These signals are often cold and indirect, making it difficult to pinpoint the exact moment when things began to change. It might feel like she's gradually slipping away, and you're left trying to catch the pieces of what once felt strong and connected. In this guide, we'll explore 9 cold signals that indicate her heart is drifting away. These signals might not scream for attention, but they carry weight in their silence. Recognizing these signs early will give you the clarity you need to face the reality of the situation and prepare for what's next. By understanding these subtle cues, you'll be in a better position to navigate the emotional complexities that come with a drifting relationship. Relationships require constant emotional investment, and when one person starts to withdraw, it can be hard to know how to respond. You may find yourself questioning whether you're imagining things or if there's truly a shift happening. It's important to recognize these cold signals for what they are, indicators of emotional detachment. This guide will help you identify and interpret these signs, providing you with the tools to assess the state of your relationship and decide on the best course of action. Being aware of these signals will empower you to move forward, no matter how challenging the path may be. 1. She stops initiating contact. In the early stages of a relationship, she may have been the one to check in on you, send cute texts, or make spontaneous plans. Whether it was a message to brighten your day or a quick call to talk about something random, it felt like she was invested in maintaining the connection. Over time, however, you may notice that these efforts dwindle. You're the one reaching out now, while she seems less inclined to initiate contact. When someone stops initiating contact, it often signals a deeper emotional shift. The act of reaching out is typically rooted in emotional engagement, a desire to stay connected. If she's no longer doing this, it might indicate that her emotional investment in the relationship has decreased. She may have mentally or emotionally detached herself, or she could be preoccupied with other areas of her life, work, personal goals, or perhaps even new relationships. If you've found yourself always the one reaching out, it's important to pay attention to this change. The dynamic has shifted, and while it's normal for the excitement of early contact to fade, a consistent pattern of her not initiating could be a sign of emotional distance. Instead of assuming the worst, consider having an open and honest conversation with her. Express your feelings and ask about hers, addressing any concerns you might have. Sometimes a lack of communication can be a wake-up call, signaling that it's time to reassess the relationship and whether both of you are still on the same page. 2. Distant or short responses. When you do manage to communicate, you might notice a significant shift in how she responds. Where there was once enthusiasm and detailed conversations, her replies are now brief, cold, or disengaged. She might give you one-word answers or only respond out of obligation. There's a noticeable lack of effort to continue the conversation or engage deeply. Cold, distant responses are a clear indication that someone has mentally or emotionally detached. If she's no longer taking the time to craft thoughtful or meaningful replies, it suggests that her emotional investment has waned. She may be pulling back, either consciously or subconsciously, as a way of protecting herself or avoiding further intimacy. It could also signal that her attention is focused elsewhere, whether that's work, other relationships, or personal matters. If you notice a recurring pattern of short and distant responses, it's time to evaluate the communication dynamic. It's important not to jump to conclusions or assume the worst, but these signals shouldn't be ignored either. Pay attention to the tone, as well as the timing and frequency of her responses. If she seems consistently disengaged, this might be a sign that she's no longer emotionally connected or interested in having meaningful exchanges. Instead of letting frustration build up, consider approaching the issue directly. Have an honest conversation with her about the changes you've observed. Ask if everything is okay and where she stands emotionally. This can help bring clarity to the situation and allow both of you to understand what's truly happening in the relationship. 3. She's more focused on her own life. One of the most noticeable signs of emotional detachment is when she starts focusing more on her own life, whether it's pursuing hobbies, spending time with friends, or investing in her career, without making the effort to include you. She may be less interested in spending time together or sharing her life with you. The energy she once put into the relationship now seems directed toward herself and her own interests. When someone is emotionally withdrawing, they often redirect their focus inward. This could manifest in her dedicating more time and energy to personal pursuits as a way of filling the emotional void left by the disconnection in the relationship. It's a form of self-preservation. By turning her attention to other aspects of her life, she can avoid confronting the growing distance between you. She might also be seeking fulfillment or personal growth outside of the relationship, signaling that her emotional investment in the partnership is waning. If you've noticed that she's becoming increasingly self-absorbed and distant, it's important to take a step back and reflect on the dynamic between you both. Are you no longer a priority in her life? Is she seeking personal fulfillment outside of the relationship? And if so, does this reflect a deeper disconnect? Rather than simply accepting this shift, consider talking openly with her. Address the changes in her behavior and ask how she's feeling about the relationship. It's crucial to create space for an honest discussion about where you both stand and whether there's room for reconnection. If the emotional distance continues, it may be time to evaluate whether the relationship is still mutually fulfilling. 4. Lack of physical affection. One of the most telling signs that her heart may be drifting is the decrease in physical affection. You may notice that the hand-holding, hugging, and intimate moments you once shared have become increasingly rare. She might no longer greet you with a warm embrace, or physical touch may feel more obligatory than spontaneous. These subtle changes can often go unnoticed at first, but when affection is no longer freely given, it's a clear indicator that something is shifting in the relationship. Physical affection is often a direct reflection of emotional closeness. When someone begins to emotionally withdraw, they typically start to pull away physically as well. This decrease in affection can be a defense mechanism, a way for her to protect herself from further emotional attachment or to distance herself from feelings she may no longer have. It's not necessarily a conscious decision, but rather a natural response to a deeper emotional disconnect. If you've noticed a decline in physical affection, it's important to take a step back and reflect on the overall dynamics of your relationship. While physical distance doesn't always equate to emotional detachment, it often correlates with it. Assess whether other signs of emotional distance are present, like a lack of communication or emotional availability, and consider how these shifts are affecting your connection. Rather than assuming the worst, have a conversation with her about the changes you've noticed. Ask how she's feeling and express your concerns in a way that opens the door for honest communication. If the lack of affection is part of a broader emotional withdrawal, it may be time to evaluate the future of the relationship and whether it still holds the same value for both of you. 5. She becomes less supportive. One of the most painful signs of emotional withdrawal is when the person you once turned to for support becomes distant or indifferent. If you've noticed that she's less attentive, less empathetic, or seems uninterested when you share your struggles, accomplishments, or feelings, it's a significant red flag. You might find that during tough moments, she's either not there for you or her responses lack the warmth and encouragement they once had. This shift can be subtle, but over time, you'll start to feel the absence of the emotional backing that was once a cornerstone of your relationship. Emotional support is a vital component of a healthy relationship. When someone starts pulling away emotionally, they often stop offering the care and encouragement that once came naturally. This lack of support isn't necessarily out of malice, but rather a sign that they are no longer as emotionally invested. It's common for someone who is mentally checking out of a relationship to reserve their emotional energy for themselves, rather than extending it to their partner. If you notice that she's becoming less supportive during difficult times, it's important to evaluate the situation carefully. Consider whether she has always been supportive and whether this shift aligns with other signs of emotional distance. It's vital to communicate your feelings with her in a non-confrontational way. Ask if everything is okay and share how you're feeling about the changes in her support. If she seems uninterested or disengaged, this could be an indication that the emotional connection is weakening, and it might be time to have a more in-depth conversation about where the relationship is headed. 6. She avoids intimate conversations. In the past, your conversations may have been filled with depth and vulnerability. You would talk about your future together, your dreams, your fears, or even the small details of your daily lives. However, lately, she seems to steer clear of these meaningful discussions. When the topic of your relationship or future comes up, she might change the subject, become distracted, or give short, uninterested answers. These once intimate moments now feel superficial, and she avoids engaging on a deeper level. Avoiding intimate conversations is often a defense mechanism when someone is emotionally detaching. By steering away from discussions about feelings, the future, or the state of the relationship, she may be trying to avoid confronting the reality that things are changing. This can happen when she has already checked out emotionally but doesn't want to directly acknowledge it. It can also indicate that she no longer wants to invest emotionally in the relationship, as these conversations often require vulnerability and emotional effort. If you notice that she's avoiding important, emotionally intimate conversations, it's essential to consider the underlying reasons for this change. Pay attention to how she reacts when you attempt to discuss feelings or future plans. Is she genuinely uninterested, or is she simply avoiding the conversation because it feels uncomfortable? If she continues to shut down these discussions, it may be a sign that her emotional connection to the relationship is fading. It's crucial to have an open and honest conversation about the state of your relationship. Approach the topic with care and understanding, acknowledging the shift without being confrontational. If she remains unwilling to talk or show any interest in emotional discussions, it might be time to reevaluate where the relationship is heading. 7. She seems emotionally unavailable. When you need her emotional support, she seems distant or detached. Her responses feel cold, lacking empathy or understanding. She may no longer show interest in your feelings or struggles, and her emotional presence feels absent. This is especially noticeable during times when you're looking for comfort or connection, but instead, you find yourself alone in your emotions. Her inability or unwillingness to offer emotional support is a clear signal that something has shifted. Emotional unavailability is often a sign that someone is beginning to disconnect. When a person starts emotionally withdrawing, they may intentionally protect themselves from becoming too attached or too involved in the relationship. This could be due to unresolved issues, emotional exhaustion, or a realization that they no longer feel invested in the relationship. In some cases, she may not have the emotional bandwidth to offer the support or connection you once shared. This shift often occurs gradually, making it difficult to pinpoint when things started changing. If you notice that she's becoming emotionally unavailable, it's crucial to reflect on the state of the relationship. Take a step back and ask yourself whether there's still mutual emotional investment. If her emotional distance is ongoing, it may be time to approach her with an open, non-confrontational conversation. Let her know how you're feeling and express your concern without pressuring her for answers. Sometimes, emotional unavailability is a signal that she's either pulling away or needs space to process her own emotions. If she's unwilling or unable to reconnect emotionally, it's essential to assess whether the relationship can be salvaged. This might be a time to evaluate whether both of you are still aligned in terms of emotional needs and relationship goals. 8. She stops defending the relationship. In the past, when conflicts or challenges arose, she would be the one to defend the relationship, find ways to resolve issues, or show a willingness to work things out. Now, when problems emerge, she seems indifferent or reluctant to put in any effort to fix things. Whether it's during arguments or moments of tension, she no longer defends the bond you share or tries to work through difficulties. Her lack of involvement in problem solving might suggest that she has mentally and emotionally checked out. When someone stops defending the relationship, it often means they've already started detaching. This behavior is a sign that her commitment or emotional investment in the relationship is fading. She might not feel the same emotional connection she once did, or she may have decided that continuing to defend the relationship isn't worth the effort anymore. This can happen gradually, especially if there have been unresolved issues or ongoing emotional distance. When someone stops defending the relationship, they might feel that further efforts won't lead to positive changes or that they've already outgrown the connection. If she's no longer defending the relationship, it's a clear signal that it might be time to assess where both of you stand emotionally. It's essential to approach the situation with care, offering an honest conversation where both parties can express their feelings. You might need to ask her directly about her commitment to the relationship and what her current feelings are. If she is unwilling to engage or doesn't show any desire to resolve the issues, it could be time to consider whether continuing the relationship is healthy for both of you. Sometimes, when one person stops defending the relationship, it's an indication that it's time to let go and move forward. 9. She stops caring about your needs. You begin to notice that she no longer pays attention to your needs, whether it's the small gestures of care, like asking about your day or offering a comforting word, or the bigger emotional support, such as being there for you during difficult times. You may feel neglected or unimportant as her focus seems to shift away from your well-being. She may no longer remember your favorite things, forget important dates, or stop showing interest in how you're feeling. The lack of empathy or consideration for your needs can be a painful sign of emotional detachment. When someone's heart is drifting, they may no longer prioritize their partner's needs. Emotional disconnection can cause them to stop caring about the things that once brought them joy in the relationship, including the happiness and emotional support of their partner. As a result, they become less attentive, less engaged, and more focused on their own life. This shift can happen gradually or suddenly, especially if there has been a growing emotional distance or unresolved issues in the relationship. When she stops caring about your needs, it often indicates that she's no longer emotionally invested in the relationship. If she's stopped caring about your needs, it's essential to recognize this as a sign that emotional detachment may be taking place. Before jumping to conclusions, consider whether this is a temporary phase or a deeper issue in the relationship. You might want to express your feelings to her, discussing how her actions are making you feel. If she's unable or unwilling to acknowledge your needs or respond with care, it may be time to reassess the relationship and whether it can be revived. Emotional investment is crucial for a healthy relationship, and if it's one-sided, it can leave both partners feeling unfulfilled. Recap of the 9 cold signals. Throughout this guide, we've explored 9 subtle yet significant signs that may indicate her heart is drifting away. These cold signals, whether it's a lack of initiation, emotional distance, or a decline in affection, are often difficult to notice at first, but can provide valuable insight into the state of your relationship. Recognizing these signs early can be crucial to understanding the dynamics between you and deciding what steps to take next. Relationships thrive on mutual emotional investment. When one partner begins to emotionally withdraw, the other can feel lost, neglected, or confused. These signs, while often quiet, signal that emotional distance is growing. It's essential to address this shift as soon as you notice it, whether it's through an open and honest conversation or acknowledging the need for space. Recognizing these changes early can help you understand what's happening and take appropriate action, whether that's trying to repair the relationship or accepting the need to move on. If you've noticed some of these signs in your relationship, take a moment to reflect on what you truly want moving forward. Don't ignore the changes happening right in front of you. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to regain the connection you once shared. If you feel that the emotional distance is irreparable, it might be time to address the situation head-on. Navigating emotional detachment can be painful, but recognizing the signs early allows you to gain the clarity necessary to move forward. Relationships are complex, and sometimes letting go is the healthiest choice for both individuals. Understanding when to let go is an act of self-care and growth, giving you the freedom to heal and move toward a healthier, more fulfilling future.